All right, guys, we're going to get started on the program here. Getting our channels up and running as we speak. Like and share the show, viewers and listeners. Like and share the show. We are live on Twitter, J-Dubs. Live on my personal and YouTube, J-Dubs. Take a look at the screen for today's headlines. We will talk a lot of news that's important to this community. I'll tell you what, if you want to take down this community, you take the community down on the old Ivy Bridge. That old Ivy Bridge has paralyzed traffic in Charlottesville for a week and change, but is now reopened. Thank goodness. Traffic flowed this morning. We live over in Ivy. Traffic was considerably better with its flow this morning. And I'll tell you, my wife has been saying this for some time. They need a dedicated exit and entrance for St. Anne's Belfield Academy off of the bypass. I want to talk about that to start this program. How do you make Charlottesville better? There's a lot of ways, but that's certainly one of them. We'll talk about that on the program today. Judah, I'm going to ask you which headline is most intriguing to you today and why on the show. Are we live on I Love CVille there, J-Dubs? Fantastic. Thank you. Yep, you are correct. We are live on I Love CVille. Hammer that like button for us, guys. Hammer that like button. Share the show. Help us spread the gospel. Like and share the show, and we're going to get rocking and rolling here on a Monday, a busy Monday for this community, and the water cooler of content and conversation of the I Love CVille show. Judah, which headline most intrigues you today and why?
Let's see. I'm interested in talking about how we need to prepare for all this development, and Ivy Road is just one illustration of that.
We'll talk about that today, guys. Hammer that like button for us. T-minus 30 seconds to start here on the I Love CVille show, guys, on a Monday. Thank you, Philip Dow, for liking the show. We live on the group there, J-Dubs?
Just about.
Once we get rocking and rolling on that group, let's start that program.
We're rocking and rolling on that group.
All right, let's do it.
Quiet on the set.
Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us on a Monday afternoon. It's great to be with you. The I Love CVille show, the water cooler of content and conversation in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia. A lot to cover on the show. Old Ivy Bridge now reopened. Hallelujah. Can I get an amen, Judah Wickhauer?
Amen.
A man with passion and charisma, Judah Wickhauer. It reopens and traffic immediately today flowing much more smoothly and efficiently. I'll tell you, if you have some terrible intentions and you want to impact Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and this region, you now know that Old Ivy Bridge is a vulnerable point for this entire community. Because I'll tell you what, for the last week and change, traffic and quality of life have been snarled. But now VDOT has confirmed the bridge is now up and running, and things are now running as they once did prior to a hit and run with a semi-truck on the Old Ivy Bridge that left a key piece of infrastructure, a key traffic corridor in peril. It got me and my wife and I thinking about how you improve that intersection. And put your hand in the air and wave it around like you just don't care if you think St. Anne's Belfield Academy at this point needs to have its own entrance and exit, a dedicated entrance and exit into that beautiful, gorgeous, massive campus right off the bypass. Why is there not a dedicated entrance and exit to St. Anne's Belfield Academy right off the bypass where those athletic playing fields are located? If you are anywhere near the bypass in the 7 a.m. hour or near the bypass in the 3 o'clock hour, the parent traffic for school drop-off and school pickup at St. Anne's Belfield Academy is so snarled, it is almost dangerous. The parents dropping off and picking up at St. Anne's Belfield, for example, in the 3 o'clock hour on the bypass, are parked by the many dozens, on some occasions, flirting with 100 vehicles on the shoulder of the bypass, with cars whizzing by them at 50, 60, nearly 70 miles an hour. This is a traffic disaster waiting to happen, ladies and gentlemen. You want to make this community better? There's so many ways to do it. So many ways to do it. Find incremental sources of tax revenue. AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly, biotechnology, we'll talk about those. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, will biotechnology eventually surpass the weddings and the breweries and the vineyards in this community, tourism, as an economic driver for Charlottesville, Albemarle, and Central Virginia? I think that very well could happen, and it may happen sooner than later. Economic development's a way to make this community better. We talk housing affordability. That's a way to make this community better. We talk about finding jobs in science, technology, engineering, math, artificial intelligence for the folks that live in this community, so outsiders don't move to this community and take this job scene that is booming right before our eyes. That's another way to make this community better. Elect officials of diverse political thought. For so long, this community has had been strangleheld. I mean, literally been choked around the neck by one political party. And one political party has positioned a community like Charlottesville, for example, in a financial situation that is one of challenge and difficulty. We've covered that so much on this program. But an extremely obvious way to me of making this community better, ladies and gentlemen, is to have a dedicated entrance and exit, a dedicated path strictly for St. Anne's off the bypass, maybe around the playing fields, that would just keep traffic from funneling into that old Ivy, that old Garth Road, that little corridor next to, was it Faulkner Drive, where Bel Air, the deli, the gas station is located. Do that, and the community and quality of life in this community improves significantly. So much we're going to cover on the program. We'll open up the conversation to your thoughts, your comments, your discussion on the Monday edition of the I Love CVille show. Huge week for ACC football. You got multiple undefeated teams playing, ladies and gentlemen, on Saturday. You got Miami and Louisville playing on Saturday. You got the University of Virginia having homecoming. They moved up the rankings. The University of Virginia moved up a spot. That win against Florida State's lost a little bit of its luster after the Seminoles have fallen. Just lost to the Pitt Panthers. But it's a huge week for Virginia. It's a huge week for the ACC. We'll break it down today on the program. I would love to give some props to Conan Owen and Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. He's a Darden graduate. Conan Owen, Sir Speedy of Central Virginia, is locally owned and operated. They take care of our signage needs for our building, the Macklin building, which we own a large chunk of on Market Street. 24 tenants in this building. They take care of our signage. They did improve the window and the signage, the storefront of our studio. We're pursuing another position in the downtown mall where they've helped already with signage over there, working with a lot of our clients. Conan Owen, the guy understands what it takes to help businesses gain market share. Darden graduate, Conan Owen, and locally owned and operated Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. Judah Wickower, can we go to the studio camera? And then once we go to the studio camera, can we welcome a trusted voice, a counted upon voice in this community? Judah B. Wickower, the jack of all trades, the jack of all wits, nearly 16 years here at the Miller Organization, Judah Wickower. So many headlines we're going to cover on today's program. I asked you this question, so it should be no surprise to start every show. Which headline today most intrigues you and why, Judah Wickower?
With all this development going on, it's I think surprising that we're still having issues with places like Ivy Road, and I'd like to see us start planning for the future that we're heading towards with with major major influxes of not just money but potentially jobs from AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly. We're definitely going to need some of these single lane roads expanded, and I think I don't really see a lot of foresight into what the city's going to be like and the surrounding area once we get some of this new business.
I respectfully push back on some of your commentary there. The development for Greystar, the massive project along the bypass, an international real estate developer that's going to create housing for thousands of people right next to the bypass.
Yeah.
Multiple individuals, considerable amount of stakeholders, including yours truly on this talk show, highlighted that the Virginia Department of Transportation, VDOT, would not be done with construction on the bridge of the bypass that Greystar needed to utilize to access their project. John Blair talked about this. He's highlighted on the show in the past. That bridge, a key entry and a key exit for the Greystar project right off the bypass. That's where you see all that red clay going on. Housing for thousands, and I'll give you those specs in a matter of moments. 525 units Greystar is building off the bypass. They're building a small city, ladies and gentlemen. We knew that VDOT was not going to be done with that bridge. Enhancement, construction, improvement, fixing wise.
Yeah.
Yet the supervisors approved and allowed Greystar to make this project materialize and happen before the bridge was finished. We are what we are in this bed because the supervisors have made it this way. Now, I will highlight this, and Deep Throat has made this comment to start the program. His photo to start the show. He says, on the old Ivy Bridge, kudos to VDOT for getting it sorted quickly. Mm-hmm. And then he says, can you imagine if it had been the city of Charlottesville that was responsible for fixing that bridge? City Hall engineer Brennan Duncan would still be sucking his thumb while we all stew in traffic. And two, Deep Throat says, did they ever figure out who hit the bridge? Is anyone going after the company for damages? They have footage, Deep Throat, of who hit the bridge. We have not had an update, however, if any kind of arrest or criminal charges have been filed. This was a hit and run of significant proportions, a semi-truck, a tractor trailer hitting the bottom of the bridge. I would love some clarity. Is that the state police? Is that the Albemarle County Police? Who does that investigation? State Police, Albemarle County Police? Is that VDOT? I would like some clarity on what they're doing pressing from a pressing charges standpoint. To his credit, to his point, I should say, to his point, if this scenario had happened in the city of Charlottesville, or Charlottesville is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of its own roads, Albemarle County, it's VDOT that does it. If this had happened in Charlottesville, we would still be in a, what? One of those Houdini vests where you're zipped in and you're dropped in a cage of water to try to wiggle your way out of that Houdini vest that you're tied in, zipped into. We would be drowning.
It's a straitjacket.
We'd be drowning because we couldn't get out of the straitjacket because the city wouldn't know what to do with it. In this case, props to VDOT for figuring it out. Kevin Yancey watching the program, his photo on screen. Get the traffic off the bypass, he says. The neighborhood on Garth Road backs up to St. Anne's. Put an entrance at the rear of that subdivision. Unless they widen the entrance ramp, it will be a choke point worse than the railroad bridge at Bel Air. 100%, Kevin Yancey. 100%. St. Anne's Belfield, one of the most prestigious and prominent private schools in the Commonwealth. Tremendously respect STAB. If STAB wants to do a capital improvement project, a fundraiser to better its campus, first priority shouldn't be football fields, lacrosse fields, brick buildings and classrooms, technology and innovation. It should be working in conjunction with VDOT and Albemarle County to prioritize a better entry and exit, jumping on point and jumping off point to that campus off of Old Garth Road. I drive by, you've seen it recently, in the 3 o'clock hour on the bypass, there are nearly 100 cars waiting in line parked on the shoulder of the bypass as cars are going 60 miles an hour past a straight line of luxury automobiles. It takes one car going 60 to 70 miles an hour to take their eyes off the road, look at their phone, and rear end that straight line of luxury automobiles as they're waiting to pick up their kids at drop off or at pickup or drop off their kids in the morning. It takes one person to hit that line at 70 miles an hour, and you have a major you-know-what show on your hands. That strikes me as the most obvious way for St. Anne's to improve quality of life for parents, for student body, for anyone going in and off that campus. Kevin Yancey says they're backed up on Ivy Road as well. I see it firsthand. We live on Ivy. We are navigating this every morning and every afternoon, as are thousands of people. Seems to me a basic fundraiser idea. So much to cover on the show. The good news is Old Ivy Bridge is now back open. And props to VDOT. They figured this out pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. I've heard some people suggest that the driver that hit the bridge get commendation for getting them to move faster.
Whoever hit the bridge, his insurance provider, VDOT, Albemarle County, whoever, should go after his insurance provider, the most aggressive force possible. Conan Owen watching the program. STAB at St. Anne's Belfield has plenty of land, Conan Owen says. Have them make a satellite lot for all the cars to pull into and get them off of the public roadway. They could set up a coffee cart selling lattes and fancy waters and yoga mats and make a fortune.
No doubt.
From Conan Owen.
I like
Something's got to be done. I'm genuinely surprised. I am genuinely surprised that dozens, if not 100 or more cars are allowed to wait in a straight line on the shoulder of a road where people are traveling a posted speed limit of 55 miles an hour, going much faster than that, close to 70. Mm-hmm. How is that not a friction point for the Virginia Department of Transportation or Albemarle County or the ACPD? The ACPD has 1 or 2 police officers at that Faulkner Drive, Old Ivy Bridge exit, trying to navigate and direct traffic. And there's only so much those guys can do.
Yeah.
And this entire situation for the viewers and listeners that are watching the program is going to tremendously worsen when Greystar, the international real estate developer, finishes the Old Ivy residences, a build-for-rent community on 35 acres on the bypass that will feature 525 total units, 2 clubhouses, 2 swimming pools, 2 fitness centers, playgrounds, sports courts, dog parks, a walking trail, a putting green, a co-working space, a library, a golf simulator, and food and sundries markets. The first units are slated to deliver in Q2 2026. If you want to learn more about this Greystar project, ilovecville.com/Greystar, GREYSTAR, ilovecville.com/Greystar. I'm going to take this link and put it in the comment section of my personal Facebook page. Just search me on Facebook, Jerry Miller Now. We have, nearly 10,000 followers. I'm going to put it in the comment section of the I Love CVille Facebook page, where there's 7,300 followers. I'll put it in the group. Kevin Yancey adds, Jerry, why do you think Farmington put a sticker gate on the backside of their subdivision to stop them from cutting through Farmington? He's 100% right. And I've cut through Farmington so many times when that gate is surprisingly left open throughout the day. How you cut through Farmington is from Old Garth Road through Farmington, getting you on Ivy Road across from the Boar's Head. But that gate, that mechanical armed gate, you need to fob, whatever the word is, scan, fob your way in for that gate to open for you. Sometimes it's left open throughout the day. I would imagine it's for the construction work that's being done in the neighborhood. And those construction workers don't have fobs to get in and out, so they just leave it open during business hours. There's something from a planning standpoint. We have planning commissioners watching this program. From a planning standpoint, a traffic standpoint, an engineering standpoint, whatever the fancy words are, I'm just a guy with a microphone, that needs to be fixed before Greystar brings 525 units in 8 months, 9 months to the bypass. 525 units, let's just use there's 336 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments, 189 3-bedroom detached homes and townhomes. So of those 525, Deep Throat is a good number. 2.5 times 525, is that fair, Deep Throat? 525 times 2.5, is that fair? You know this better than I do. 525 times 2.5 people? Across from St. Anne's Belfield, there's going to be more than 1,300 people living there in the second quarter, starting in the second quarter of next year. Now, it's a phased-out development. It's not all going to happen at one time. But the first units come to market Q2 2026. Eventually, there's going to be more than 1,300 people if I'm allowed to use 2.5 people times 525 units. That is going to be an absolute you-know-what show right there. Lots to cover on the show. If we want to be a world-class city, and that's the tagline of Charlottesville, world-class city, we need to have world-class innovation, world-class roads, world-class infrastructure, world-class policing, world-class policy. I think Kochis is bringing world-class policing. I think world-class innovation is on the cusp. This AstraZeneca and Eli Lilly economic development storyline is as significant as any storyline that Albemarle County has seen from an econ dev standpoint as what? One of the top wedding destinations in the United States? As being a hub for government contracting? I mean, it literally, this is crazy for me to say. This biotechnology storyline is like the third cousin from an economic development standpoint, the third cousin of the founding of the University of Virginia from an econ dev standpoint. We're going to talk about that on today's show. Viewers and listeners, put your thoughts in the feed. I will relay them live on air. He says Deep Throat or STAB could try to help create bus service. When we lived in Houston, there were all sorts of private, unaffiliated with any particular school, mini bus services that connected kids to school. I got someone from St. Anne's calling me literally right now. There are enough wealthy STAB parents willing to pay $100 a week for this service. And he says, forget about people and let's talk about car trips. Per apartment unit, that Greystar project, the standard assumption is 7 car trips per day per unit. Yeah, that's why. See why he's number one in the family? He's saying, forget the people, talk about car trips. The Greystar project, per apartment unit, the standard assumption is 7 car trips per day per unit. So 3,500 trips. K factor of 10%. So in your peak hours, probably 350 car trips. That's pretty close to STAB's peak traffic. And it's happening across the street from STAB. When parents are waiting by the near 100, if not more, on a gravel shoulder next to a road where people are hauling ass to the tune of 60 or 70 miles an hour. It takes one distracted driver to clip that line of Stabonian parents on the shoulder, and you have an accordion of collision.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'll say that again to the fundraising department at STAB. It's going to take one distracted driver, cell phone, changing the radio, kid in the back seat, to cause an accordion of collision of Stabonian parents in luxury automobiles on the bypass. Comments coming in faster than I can keep up. Literally getting phone calls from the school on the show right now. John Blair's comment. Jerry, we've kind of looked at long-term trends for a while, but today's show really does provide us with this reality. The area's at a true decision point. What do I mean? We've been watching private schools rise in the area for years. St. Anne's, for example. We've been watching the biotech sector gear up for years, AstraZeneca. And we've been watching UVA's revenue sports get their sea legs in the NIL area. UVA football and basketball appear to be top 25 teams this year, he says. John Blair adds, it's all coming together. The question is whether the infrastructure housing situations are immediately addressed or not. If not, you can expect more turbocharged gentrification. I hate to say it, but it's just the truth. You can't have all these trends finally come to fruition at the same time and not expect massive gentrification if there isn't immediate attention to housing and infrastructure. Amen, brother. Props to John Blair. Amen, brother. He's 100% right. And I'm going to tell you right now, the next community that's going to be gentrified massively is Greene County. Stanley Martin Homes, which is owned by a Japanese conglomerate, now, Stanley Martin. They are building or leading the charge. They are leading their charge. There's a couple of other players involved in this as well, but they are leading the charge of thousands of incremental housing units in Greene County. And these people are extremely smart. They know that Albemarle County invested millions of dollars into Rivanna Station, north of town. Let me see if I can find the Albemarle County press release. Rivanna Station and Rivanna Futures. Millions of dollars was invested north of town. They know that Albemarle County's dirt is so expensive, it's prohibitive for development. They know that Albemarle County's political appetite for more development is also red tape for new construction, friction for new construction. So these developers, especially developers that are capitalized like Stanley Martin, developers that are capitalized like Ryan Holmes, they are targeting jurisdictions that are adjacent to popular areas. Albemarle County, there's no political appetite to build more in Albemarle County. Okay? And the dirt's so effing expensive that the new construction is at an absolute standstill. Okay? Look at the data. It's there. So they're targeting Greene County because it's adjacent to Albemarle County. They're targeting Greene County because they know that Rivanna Futures at Rivanna Station, the county's invested tens of millions of dollars of its own money into purchasing land to try to keep the defense sector in Albemarle County.
Yeah.
Okay? They now know AstraZeneca is going to invest how many billion? $4.5 billion to build 2 facilities in Rivanna Station, Rivanna Future, north of town. This $4.5 billion, these 2 facilities that are going to be in Albemarle County that publicly traded AstraZeneca is building are going to be its 2 largest facilities in the entire world. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the home of 600 incremental new jobs, 600 new jobs. Jobs most likely that will be filled from people outside the area. Stanley Martin's no dummy. They're like, let's build in the area right next to where Rivanna Future and Rivanna Stations are. Let's build in the area right next to where Albemarle County has dumped tens of millions of dollars to purchase nondescript, afterthought dirt from the Wendell Wood estate. Let's build in the area right next to where Albemarle County is trying to funnel its government contractors here that have a $1.3 billion economic impact on the area. Chamber of Commerce study. Greene County, I said this on Friday on Real Talk with Keith Smith at 10:15 a.m. Greene County, once known for Shiflets and Morris's and Haney's, is about to turn into the Crozet we know today. At one time, sleepy Greene County was known for Bacon Holla and the Dean family and the Morris family and 2 F's and 2 T's and 2 F's and 2 T's and 1 E at the end and no E at the end and 1 F and 1 T. Shiflets everywhere. Well, get ready, Greene County. You're on the cusp of turning into what Crozet is today. And you think Crozet's tough when traffic gets snarled on either 64 or Ivy Road? Wait till you see what happens when Route 29 gets snarled, and that's the only entry and exit corridor for Greene County. At least Crozet's got two. At least Crozet's got two. Mm-hmm. Wild times we're living in right now. And you know what? It's wild times from a glasses half full standpoint for me. Not completely full, but half full. Because it's a good problem to have. And the good problem that we have is at least we have economic development. The alternative is southwestern Virginia before the casinos started coming. Mm-hmm. At least we have development.
Yeah.
And if you want to rotate lower thirds on screen and we talk some of this impact, like, do we start having the conversation at Vivace? I saw Ginny Hu at Vivace. Nice. And Ginny Hu's husband at Vivace on Saturday. My wife and I and our two boys went into Vivace in like 5:30, 6 o'clock hour. We got a pizza over there. If you haven't had the pizza at Vivace, you're missing some of the best pizza in town. My wife and I had a couple beers. My boys, our boys had a pepperoni pizza. The bread was fantastic. We had the popcorn. We sat in the bar area. I walked into Vivace and 10 or 12 people there. Ginny Hu and her husband were there. Saw Keith Clark over there. Saw a fellow entrepreneur that I have a lot of respect for, Jason Halloran. He and his wife were there. Developers were there. Bankers were there. Attorneys were there. You had blue-collar folks, white-collar folks, university professors, CDLs, all mingling and mixing over something wet and some good food. And I mean, the Charlottesville version of Cheers is the Vivace bar. Give me a version of Cheers in Charlottesville that's not Vivace. What would you say?
Cheers. Yeah. I don't know.
Vivace bar on the Ivy side. Maybe if you want to go the western of Albemarle County, you might say Far Downers. Maybe you go Far Downers. Pro Renata's starting to grab that stake. Eastern side of Albemarle County, what are you probably going? Lazy Parrot? Lazy Parrot on the eastern side is its version of Cheers. The northern side of Albemarle County, what is it, Timberwood? Probably Timberwood Grill. The southern side of Albemarle County, what's the southern side of Cheers? Is it the Tap House at Timberwood? I don't know that area as well. You tempt people as soon as I went in there. But this conversation was had. When do we start having this conversation, viewers and listeners? That AstraZeneca, is AstraZeneca 4.5 billion, Judah?
Something like that.
And Eli Lilly is what, 5 billion, Judah?
Yeah.
When do we have the conversation that the Paul Manning Biotechnology Institute, that is funded in large chunk and change by billionaire Paul Manning, gave about $100 to $125 million to get the party started. Then once the party gets started at the Paul Manning Biotech Institute on Fontaine Avenue, set to open in 2029, Paul Manning Biotech Institute, their first hire is a senior executive vice president from AstraZeneca. He comes over as the new face of the Biotech Institute at UVA. Next thing we know, the news leaks that AstraZeneca is building a facility in the area and that Eli Lilly are building a facility in the area. Eli Lilly and AstraZeneca combined are building a facilities in the area to the tune of $10 billion in aggregate. Just those two publicly traded companies, $10 billion in aggregate. Mm-hmm. Paul Manning Biotech Institute, when it's all said and done, what's that, $500 million in development costs, if not more? I'm very curious what the soft and hard costs are for the Biotech Institute, Paul Manning. So you got $4.5 billion for AstraZeneca, 600 jobs, $5 billion for Eli Lilly, 650 jobs. Paul Manning Biotech Institute, $500 million, conservative, that number's probably light, 500. You're now over $10 billion combined collective aggregate just from those three.
Yeah.
I straight up was told, ladies and gentlemen, before COVID, before this check was struck, that when this check is struck, you're going to see a population uptick of 6,000 to 8,000 people to the area. 6,000 to 8,000 people. I think that number's now light. We know it's 650 at Eli Lilly, 600 at AstraZeneca. Paul Manning's going to be what? Another 600 and change? And that doesn't even include the ecosystems that sprout out around these three anchors. When do we have this conversation at Cheers of Charlottesville Vivace, at Cheers of Charlottesville Lazy Parrot, at Cheers of Charlottesville Timberwood north of town? When do we have the conversation that biotechnology in Charlottesville is going to be an economic development driver that surpasses tourism? Mm-hmm. That is on the same plane as government contracting, which we know a few years ago was $1.3 billion, thanks to a study commissioned by the Chamber of Commerce and financed by Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville, with Weldon Cooper, assisting with it.
Yeah.
When do we have this conversation, ladies and gentlemen? You ready for this? That this biotechnology, this birth of biotechnology, is akin to when Thomas Jefferson, the University of Virginia, were birthed here. Now, you might say that's hyperbole in a stretch. What are you talking about, Jerry? I'm not, that's not hyperbolic. Mm-hmm. That is not hyperbolic, ladies and gentlemen. When do we start making the legitimate argument that the top drivers of the Central Virginia economy are UVA 1, biotechnology 2, government contracting 3, tourism 4, and then what? Real estate 5? And who knows what Jaffrey's going to do with data science and this data science school?
Yeah.
Dude, he's got the Midas touch. Friend of the program, I hope he hears this. Team listens to the show. I hope they hear this. Dude's got the Midas touch. Data science is going to be world class. I don't even know what the impact of data science is going to be positively to this area. It's going to be monumental and significant. That's the conversation we were having at Cheers on Saturday over some popcorn, some IPAs, and some pizza. That the biotechnology sector is going to be akin to government contracting from an econ dev standpoint and start knocking on the door at the University of Virginia. Thoughts and comments, viewers and listeners, put them in the feed. I'll relay them live on air. Your thoughts, Judah Wickhauer.
Yeah. Just like I was saying, we need to prepare for all of that. It's not going to be a small thing coming to our area. And if someone knocking a bridge puts this much strain on the already strained Ivy corridor, it's not just Ivy that we need to start thinking about.
James Watson watching the program, his photo on screen. He says, seems like the biotech pharmaceutical corporations, defense, and the two counties should be purchasing roadway land and finding a solution for the upcoming roadway gridlock on that corridor. That's really the only main issue I see, but a pretty significant one. He's 100% right. Hugely significant one.
Yeah.
Because I need viewers and listeners to hear this. The folks that are going to work for AstraZeneca when these two facilities are online in 2029, the two largest AstraZeneca facilities in the world, they are not going to live in Greene County. And I'm no shade on Greene County, but these biotechnology scientists or technologists, whatever the phrase is, are going to be so deep-pocketed in compensation that they are going to be commuting, ladies and gentlemen, from Ivy, pockets of Western Albemarle, or pockets of the city of Charlottesville. They're not going to be living in Greene or Barbersville. They're not going to be living in Forest Lakes. Holly Mead. Georgia Gilmer, her photo on screen. Interesting tidbit. St. Anne's Bellfield's lower school is landlocked by property owned by UVA and the late McLeans. Wonder what UVA plans to do with that property. It's a great question, Georgia Gilmer. James Watson, they're probably going to have to buy land that already has businesses on it along 29, literally tear down those and create roadways. That's extremely expensive. 100% right from James Watson. James Watson's all over it. All over it. I mean, but they have a track record of doing that. The Foods of All Nations shopping center, is that Ivy Square? UVA owns that. If anyone thinks that Ivy Square Shopping Center in the long run is going to be what we see today and not completely torn down and knocked down, you're not reading the tea leaves correctly. Do you guys remember the Cavalier Inn? I remember my dad went to UVA. My brother went to UVA. I went to UVA. We grew up We grew up in Williamsburg. We moved from Naples, Florida, grew up in Williamsburg. We grew up going to football games and walking the grounds of Thomas Jefferson's University because my dad loved coming here like all alumni do. We always stayed at the Cavalier Inn, caddy quarter from the UVA tennis courts. The Cavalier Inn was a phenomenal hotel. Phenomenal, middle, upper class, middle tier, 3-star hotel. The thing that made the Cavalier Inn the best was its proximity to walk to everywhere. You stayed at the hotel and you could park your car and didn't have to worry about moving it for 2 or 3 days. And you could walk everywhere. Corner, Scott Stadium, John Paul Jones, the lawn, everywhere. They tore it down. Completely tore it down.
Yeah.
And reimagined the entire intersection. Because the most valuable aspect of the Cavalier Inn was not the hotel. It was the dirt. And the fact that it was a gateway and an entrance quarter to the University of Virginia. I have said that the Lawn 2.0, the Academic Village 2.0, is going to be that Ivy corridor that connects the Boar's Head to the Data Science School into where the Cavalier Inn once stood. You clearly see the University of Virginia pushing its way that way. That's why it made such a big deal about that apartment complex that's being developed next to Moe's. UVA, Alison Rauscher, its architect, they literally were going before city council meetings and saying we shouldn't build a 10-story apartment building next to Moe's. Why did they say that? Because UVA wants that entire quarter to be the Academic Village 2.0. Wants it to be housing for second years and force second years to live on grounds now. Mm-hmm. If that's the Academic Village 2.0, the next quarter for expansion for UVA is probably connecting North Fork to grounds. Do you have the photo from UVA today that you can put on screen?
No.
You didn't download that?
Not yet.
Are you able to get that in routine time? If not, we can save it for tomorrow.
Yeah, I can try to get it.
But not on the Mac. Don't do it on the Mac because that impacts the show. We'll just save it for tomorrow. No big deal. Save it for tomorrow. There's a photo on UVA today. The headline is UVA poised to benefit from AstraZeneca's new Albemarle manufacturing site. And they have a rendering. And this rendering on this story, it's the hero pick on this story, literally shows what looks like to be a version of the Academic Village. This looks like a version of Thomas Jefferson's University, but it's at UVA's North Fork Research Park in northern Albemarle County. We'll see if we can put that on screen tomorrow. Vanessa Parkhill, her photo on screen. Then Judah, you offer your thoughts. Vanessa Parkhill says, North Point may offer a good option for housing to AstraZeneca affiliates. Possibly, but is North Point going to be at capacity by the time they come online in 2029? Just spitballing with you here. Randy O'Neill, which statewide candidates from the Democratic Party are sharing these positive economic developments? I don't really see any of the candidates doing it. I see Glenn Youngkin trying to tout the economic development with FaceTime and ribbon cutting. I mean, Glenn Youngkin's been spending a lot of time in Albemarle County. He knows he's got about 3.5 months left. Not even 3.5 months left. He's got about 3 months left. So he needs to press as much flesh as possible and get as much positive attention on his personal brand as possible and hope that carries over to a potential presidential push if he wants to go that route. Or at the very least, help him cleanse or bathe the damage done to his personal brand over the last 18 months. And boy, oh boy, has a lot of damage been done. That's all he's doing. Deep Throat says, to your point about that shoulder, I now take kids extra early so I don't have to sit there. Scares the bejeebus out of me. Yeah. How is it legal that nearly 100 cars can be parked in the gravel on not really even a shoulder next to a road called a bypass where cars are going 70 miles an hour by it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a freeway.
That's a freeway. What these people are doing is akin to parking on the interstate and being at a standstill stop.
Yeah.
Right?
At a curve.
At a blind curve. With no traffic light and just a policeman standing in a yellow vest trying to direct traffic. Explain to me how this is allowed. If this was a public school, it would never have materialized this way. Never would have materialized this way. 118 marker. Ginny Who, hey, nice to see you and your husband. She says Vivace's the only one left with Lord Hardwick's and Sloan's now closed. She says the Cheers of Charlottesville. I say Lazy Parrot's still on the eastern side of town. It's got the Cheers of Charlottesville. You cringe when I say that?
I don't know. I haven't really been to that one. Obviously, we used to go to the the all indoor version.
Lazy Parrot 1.0, where you could smoke inside.
Yeah. So I don't know, but that I guess there was a bit of a Cheers vibe to that place. So maybe it transferred to the new spot. Who knows?
John Blair says Philip Dow might be better suited for your question about what's the Cheers of Charlottesville and kind of the southern side. But he says, and he knows Philip Dow's the mayor of Scottsville over there. We've dubbed him the mayor of Scottsville. He says, but to the Cheers on the south side of Albemarle County, Tavern on the James in Scottsville seems like a candidate. What makes a Cheers of Charlottesville? It's a location where the wealthy, the white collar, the middle class, the blue collar are all welcomed and not judged. What makes a Cheers of Charlottesville a location that is far from pretentious? A location that's approachable and welcoming, no matter what your attire is.
Yeah.
Our sons walked in with Under Armour shirts on and Under Armour shorts on. I think I had a quarter zip on and shorts. My wife, I think, had yoga pants on and a quarter zip. We were greeted at the hostess stand, and no one looked us up and down for having athletic apparel on. You go into Vivace or Lazy Parrot, and you see folks that are in their working uniforms with paint and grease and banged up hands, all the way to folks in three-piece suits with ties on, and no one judges. There's few melting pots in Charlottesville left like this.
Yeah.
Lazy Parrot, Vivace, Timberwood, they embody these qualities.
Miller's. You don't think so? You see all kinds of people in there when they got John Dirth and some jazz going on.
Are you going to see as many parents or family folk? I wouldn't bring my kids to Miller's. I'd bring my kids to Lazy Parrot. I'd bring my kids to Timberwood. And I'd bring my kids to Vivace.
Okay, that's fair.
You're not going to see the working class go to Miller's during happy hour after a work day. After a work day, and men in suits, women in suits, the working class overalls or uniforms, name on their chest, they're not going to go to Miller's for a couple of beverages and to shoot the you-know-what. That's more destination. I don't know. Just my 2 cents. I certainly wouldn't bring my kids there. Vanessa Parkhill, a tongue-in-cheek comment from VP, but who needed a western bypass after all? James Watson, you should see if somebody can let you know how much vacancy they have or don't have at North Point, because I think it's got thousands and thousands of unused square feet, but I have nothing to validate that on other than walking around there once or twice a year. Conan Owen says, I disagree on where AstraZeneca employees will live. This is a manufacturing plant, skilled manufacturing, but not all suits and PhDs. The execs will live in Fraser Grant and revitalize some of those great farms off 33 and 20. Conan Owen, I will say this, that Glenn Youngkin described the 600 jobs as fantastically paying jobs. Glenn Youngkin's words. These are fantastically well-paying jobs. Glenn Youngkin's words there. I would bet many of these fantastically well-paying jobs, because of the struggles of Albemarle County Public Schools, and because of the level of intelligence and acumen tied with the AstraZeneca employees, that they will be pursuing private school education for their offspring. My 2 cents. Everyone's shooting at the hip here, but that's what makes life great. This is the conversation we were having at Vivace with 8 or 10 people. Anything you want to add, J-Dubs?
No.
Any other headlines we need to get to that we're not covering?
A lot of them.
What else we got?
Let's see. What do you want to talk about? We've got.
My wife is pinging me. She says, "Make sure you tell the viewers and listeners that Maggie's is opening soon in Midtown, in the former Blue Moon Diner spot. Maggie's Midtown is what it's going to be called."
What do we know about that?
The Maggie's Midtown. I know this is why you watch the show, viewers and listeners. One of the key guys behind Smyrna, which is often recognized as one of the best restaurants in Charlottesville, Smyrna in Midtown, located in the former Bella's restaurant location, is one of the key guys behind Maggie's in Midtown. Maggie's in Midtown. I will get you more intel this week on that show after touching base with ownership on what I can or cannot say about their development and their pursuit of new F&B at the old Blue Moon Diner. Stay tuned for that. I'd like to put on screen the Vinny's and Miranda's closing news, if you can put that on screen. This is a sad story. And a sad story that unfortunately got sadder. There was a news outlet called the heck is this news outlet called? The Piedmont Journal Recorder. And I'm not throwing shade on the Piedmont Journal Recorder. Their tagline, local news, local knowledge. I appreciate the effort for local news from the Piedmont Journal Recorder. But they highlight over the weekend that 2 Ruckersville area restaurants were shut down over non-payment of rents.
Wow.
Miranda's Grill, which is located in the Green Countryside Square Strip Mall along Seminole Trail in Ruckersville, has shut down over non-payment of rent by Greene County General District Court. And then neighboring Vinny's New York Pizza Company has also met a similar demise. Vinny's in particular is a tough one to swallow. They were behind $66,560 in rent. Then they also had $7,600 in late rent fees, $76 in court costs, and $1,500 in attorney fees. Miranda's was $70,812 behind on rent, plus $5,350 in past due rent fees and bad check charges, $76 in court costs, and $2,500 in attorney fees. So with Vinny's, you're talking about, I'm doing some quick math here. You're talking basically $76,000.
Yeah.
Miranda's, you're talking very similar, $76,000. These are sad stories. People are like quick to jump on these business owners for getting behind on rent. Sad stories. A guy like Vinny, who's owned Vinny's for nearly 40 years, does not want to fall $66,000 behind on rent.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, as someone who's a landlord, we have 24 tenants, who's had to go through the eviction process, it's awful. We've had, on behalf of a client, had to go and change the locks on a tenant and then go and sell their biotechnology equipment for 50 cents on the dollar. I've told that story before on this show. One of my clients, a mentor of mine, had a biotech lab. They got so behind on rent and continued to order new biotechnology equipment because we saw it on camera outside their lab that eventually we're like, dude, what are you doing? We're sending you notarized letters. We're telling you in person, emails, calls. We're giving you every benefit of the doubt. You were 11 months behind on rent. What are you doing? We don't want to evict you. You have a lab that's been custom built for you.
Yeah.
And then eventually, once FedEx and UPS and Amazon or whoever the vendor is, these are fancy dancy vendors, continue to drop new biotechnology equipment at their front door, or at a time where they try to sneak the equipment in so we don't see it because they know we have a camera, you then have to go and change the locks. Then they desperately want the biotechnology equipment back because without the biotechnology equipment, they can't do biotechnology. And we're like, you owe us 11 months of rent. Pay us the money and we can't pay you the money. I'm sorry. And then next thing you know, I'm selling biotechnology equipment for 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I was damn good at that. Sold about all of it, recouped a lot of the back rent, if not all of it. I think we came out ahead on that. Pretty sure we came out ahead on that. But it's miserable. It's miserable. So I feel for Miranda's and I feel for Vinny's, especially for Vinny's, who's been there in green for nearly 40 years.
Yeah.
What other headlines are we talking about? Is UVA the last one? We should give some love to Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply has been supporting this community through sanitary supply on East High Street for 61 years. Online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. On High Street, the Vermillion family, the owners of Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, have run this business for 3 years as a family, and their Vermillion family have been in Albemarle County for 5 years. They have free delivery. They will beat any price and will get the product to your house in the area for free faster than any of the big box brands. Why you're not ordering any sanitary supply stuff, buying Miele vacuums or pool robots, pool cleaning, anything clean-wise from Charlotte, you should do it all from Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. They literally beat the big box brands with delivery at the same price, and you're supporting local.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal human beings.
Mm-hmm.
We'll close with football, and we'll talk about this with Jerry Ratcliffe tomorrow at 10:15 a.m., the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer on the Jerry and Jerry Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a monumental week for the Atlantic Coast Conference and for Virginia football. First, I want to talk about this. There's 13 undefeated power conference teams left in league play. The ACC has Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, SMU, and Virginia. Duke and Georgia Tech play this weekend, so one of them will lose. Miami plays Louisville, a very good team. And SMU, who's undefeated power conference team in league play, travels to Clemson. So after this weekend, either Duke or Georgia Tech will have a loss in conference play. Miami is playing a very good Louisville team that could beat the Hurricanes, and SMU plays Clemson that's desperate. Virginia's got Washington State in a homecoming matchup on Saturday. UVA climbed up the polls to number 18 in the nation. The Hoos could run the rest of the schedule. They play at 6:30 p.m. on Saturday on the miserable CW network. The Wahoos are a 17.5-point favorite with the over-under at 56 and change. We break this game down from every angle on the Jerry and Jerry Show tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. right here on the I Love CVille network. And we highlight the fine folks at Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. One of their key team members will join us on the program on Wednesday. Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. Any custom hardscape need you have at your house, it's Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. OakValleyLH.com. They have a phenomenal office on the downtown mall, Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes, and they can customize any need that you have at your house from a hardscape standpoint. Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. Closing thoughts, Judah Wickower.
Closing thoughts. Fall is here. Get your pumpkins. Get your warm clothing out of the closet. It's beautiful out there. Enjoy it.
Get your pumpkins. Get your warm clothing. Fall is here. There we go. I like it. I like it. I like pumpkins. I like warm clothing. And I like fall. And I like Judah Wickower. This is the I Love CVille show on a Monday afternoon. Thank you kindly for joining us. So long, everybody.